Apparently we're live.
Hey!
Can we? Yeah, from Twitch chat I assume that we actually are live. So yeah, hi, I'm Cadarev and I will be running the Tomb Raider trilogy, which is Tomb Raider Legend, Anniversary and Underworld. And with me I have Fino the Fox, who's like the best Anniversary runner ever, but he also knows some stuff about the other two games. Hi Fino.
Hi there. Yeah, I was pretty much brought in because Cadarev's kind of foreign and hard to understand, so they brought in this buff American dude to, explain things a little better.
Yeah. Also, don't worry if he sounds a bit robotic from time to time. We are aware of that, but couldn't fix it. So yeah, I'll count down and then we'll just start. 3, 2, 1, go.
So the most major trick that I guess we should explain is airwalking. There's a certain animation that you need to get, and basically, as long as you keep your guns held out and you continue moving and you don't jump, then you can pretty much just walk straight through the air. And this is going to be the most major trick throughout Legend and Anniversary. So
okay, never mind. So you can skip a part of that puzzle there by jumping up there, but my hands are a bit shaky now, so it was a bit bad. So yeah, here you can see an airwalk. I did one at the start of the run, but there were quite a few tricks in a row, so maybe you didn't see, but obviously you might be able to see that something is not right here, because we were kind of, ignoring all the puzzles you are supposed to do here, and we're just going up waterfalls and stuff like that. So yeah, as Fino said, get used to that because it's the main glitch we will exploit in Legend and Anniversary.
Legend and Anniversary are very much similar. In a way, you can think of Anniversary as being like a more polished engine of this, but in a lot of ways, the tricks are very similar, much more so than Underworld in comparison.
So there I wanted to gain a bit of height to skip a cutscene trigger, and since I'm already this far up, I can also go out of bounds, because the upper part of that tunnel there doesn't have collision. And the thing about out of bounds is it's obviously very useful, but we always have to kind of load the next part of the level. Sometimes we can do that from out of bounds and keep the airwalk and the out of bounds like alive. But for example, this next room I'll have to go in bounds to load the actual room.
Yeah, people who aren't very familiar with this game, they sometimes think that airwalking is just OP, and in a lot of ways it obviously is, but it's not quite like it's just no clip, because we can't just gain and lose height wherever we want. So in some cases we do have to go back in bounds a level in order to load areas.
Yeah, and we have to abuse level geometry to gain and lose height, so slopes and stuff like that are very useful. Here I go out of bounds above this cog, and I'll try to load the next area without triggering the QTE that's associated with it, and I succeeded, that's good. It's actually a bit finicky there, because the trigger to load the next level segment is just a bit bigger than the trigger for the QTE. And yeah, so now we're actually already approaching the end of the first level, Bolivia, and the end of the first level is basically one of the reasons why I assume this run got into this marathon, because, yeah. It's actually a bit of a stupid segment, because you'll see Legend has quite a bit of RNG involved, and this is no exception. You want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say, when it comes to gaining and losing height while airwalking, it's not always obvious exactly where you can do it either, because there's some places where it would seem like you should gain height based on like the slope and the look of something, but sometimes you'll lose height just because like the way they actually did collision in some areas is kind of strange, where like the collision doesn't necessarily match the object you're actually seeing. So in some cases it's not exactly obvious what parts you can gain and lose height on. I would probably say that's more the case in Anniversary, but it's certainly still true of Legend.
So here I can do another glitch called the left roll to zip up that building. It used to be a lot more common to do stuff like that, but ever since we found an airwalk, it has become a lot more uncommon. And here I want to kill a few guys to get their hand grenades, because I will use the hand grenade later on in the level to do a somewhat interesting skip. Actually, that guy didn't drop the hand grenade where I could pick it up, because he dropped it behind the trigger, so I'll just pick that one up. And that brings us to the obvious highlight of this run. Yeah, so this is one of the reasons why Legend might not be the most attractive speed game compared to the other two. So there are two big bike segments in this run, and
they're both terrible.
Yeah, they're very terrible, yes. They're the biggest RNG element in this run, and the way they work is they're kind of an auto-scroller, but so the level is kind of like endlessly repeating unless you kill all the enemies in a group. And once you killed all the enemies in one group, the next one will spawn, so on until you like killed all the enemies that there are. And yeah, they can behave very badly or they can behave nicely, and we'll see what they'll do here. If I kill this guy fast enough, I can make the next group spawn faster. So yeah, that's not happening because Lara wasn't able to really hit him, so never mind about that. Yeah, you can talk
Sometimes
now.
they'll just run into a wall and explode as well, which is nice.
Yeah, and they might actually run into me and explode as well. The thing you want to do is actually always fire at the one that's closest to you, because you can only use the pistols during these segments, and pistols, they have quite a decay of damage over like range. So up close they actually do quite a lot of damage, but yeah, especially if the reticle is like gray, you do basically no damage. And you want to be as close to these enemies as possible, but you actually don't really want to overtake them, because once you overtake them, they speed up or accelerate pretty quickly, and if they hit you from behind, they can actually like block your steering, and you will just like fly off into the next boulder or rock and die, and that's not really what I want to do. So that was the first part of that bike segment. This is kind of an intermission, this is not endlessly repeating up until we hit the next bridge, but I still want to kill these guys because they're annoying. Here you can see there are, yeah, so this guy hit me from behind, you saw there, I got completely screwed there. There are some explosive barrels littered throughout this level, as you saw. They're also RNG dependent actually, so you want to have as many of those as possible because they always one-hit your enemies, which will be even more important later on in the second bike segment, but I guess we'll talk about that once we're there. Yeah, here's time to get excited. This guy is really... Wow, yeah, amazing. Cool. Yeah, now we just do the same again, and you can already see how fun this is. So here there is a chance of an explosive barrel spawning, but it didn't, so I have to kill these 4 guys manually. And maybe we see... Okay, so that guy can actually crash into you from behind and then die immediately. He didn't, so that's kind of sad. But yeah, just more of the same stuff, I guess. So, do you have anything to talk about?
Bike sections, you know, they're just kind of not good. It is possibly worth noting that because you're driving on a motorcycle, Lara is actually only able to use one gun, so your ammo capacity is also halved during this, so you also get a lot more frequent reloads, which just brings down the amount of time you can kill someone even more.
And since she's she wields the pistol in her left hand, you actually always want to overtake the enemies to the right, so you're closer, but yeah, that's like some micro optimizations. Now this is
she's right-handed.
Yeah.
So she's probably missing most of her shots.
So this is the end of the level, or not the level yet, this is only the end of the segment, so we just have to get on top of this truck front, and then we're done with this part, and we actually will get into a flashback sequence where I won't have any guns, so I won't be able to do any airwalks, because as we mentioned earlier, you have to have your guns out to airwalk. What we will get instead though are flares, and an unlimited amount of those actually. But before I get into those, I want to maybe do this little skip here. And I didn't, of course, so never mind. So yeah, about the flares. Can you please grab the thing? Okay, good. About the flares, we have an unlimited amount of them, but they run out after like 4 or 5 seconds. So basically all our airwalks we do with flares, they're timed. Which sounds a bit like not that useful, but luckily all the gaps we have to clear using airwalks, they're actually just fine for us to clear with the amount we have due to the flares.
I'd also like to point out it might seem as though the quality is a little low in this area, but there's actually like a slight film grain that you can't exactly make out on stream, but it's making it look worse than it actually is.
Yeah, and you can actually also see like the amount of care that went into Lara's model by the difference in amount of polygons between her and Kent there. So in this,
Interesting.
yeah.
Good.
No, so in this scene I have to run away from this monster, and I could be able to do a flare walk in this cutscene to clear a gap already. It's a bit finicky, so I might not be able to get it. Let's see. I just jumped too early. I jumped too early. Oh well. As you can see, I took quite a bit of damage. I probably would have made it if I wasn't that nervous. Never mind. So that would have skipped doing that small climbing section there. As you see, not a big skip I missed. And then we just flare walk to the end of this level.
You lost a lot of health doing
I
that.
know.
Interesting little trivia thing. The model used for Lara in this section is the model that was used in the demo for Tomb Raider Anniversary.
Which we will get to see later. I mean, not the demo, obviously. I think.
Yeah, we're only speedrunning the demo.
It's shorter.
Whole game's too long.
So yeah, now we're back in the present, and we have our guns back. So from now on, it will be unlimited airwalk time, basically. But this segment, there is... I mean, you have been working on kind of a skip for this, but we're not quite yet able to skip this, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a bunch of swimming and activating switches. One thing to notice here is our health or med packs also like heal suffocating damage, so we can just like keep swimming here and activate the switches and just heal up with med packs.
Yeah. The demo thing was a joke, by the way. But yeah, the skip that I've been working on, the room that Cadarev's in right now with the 4 switches, the exit to it has like a current that pushes you back, so I'm able to get out of bounds, but whenever I try to get to the next room, you still get pushed back in by the current, and I haven't found a way to skip outside of that. But if we could, it'd probably still not save any time.
So now I'm getting the airwalk of this to skip the next section. So these slopes here are actually kind of these slippery slopes that you immediately slide back off if you would want to climb them normally. And then I want to use this slope to the right to skip a QTE trigger to my left. And this brings us to this puzzle where I will be needing the hand grenades I collected earlier. Because you have to... Sorry?
No.
You have to roll these boulders onto these switches. There are 3 boulders in total. Wait, no, let me do that again. Because there is kind of a setup you want to do. You want to... Let me just do it first. You want the left boulder here to go into the switch first, but I shot that boulder to the right so it gets enough momentum to go into the switch by itself. And since this switch got activated first, I can already act during the cutscene that is playing for this switch right now.
And this little trick with the grenade that Cadarev is about to do is a trick called cheating.
Yeah, sorry. Exposed. Yeah, it doesn't actually save as much time as it might seem, but it's still a pretty cool trick, I think. Obviously, I saved having to climb up there and get the boulder down by myself. And yeah, now we just climb up here because that's the puzzle, and then we're off to the escape sequence for this level, where we just have to get back to the start. And since we have our guns, an airwalk is pretty obvious here. And you can get one off this thing in the middle right here, which I did, which is good. And I should mention there is a small chance of any of these guys sniping me out of my airwalk. But it's only one specific attack that would do that, and I just hope they don't. I mean, it's not the end of the run if they would, but still would appreciate if they didn't. I dropped my airwalk there to get one off here, so I'm at a lower elevation, which will make it possible to skip having to climb the rope in front of me here to get up to this ledge. And yeah, that's about it for the cheating part. Now we just proceed to the end of the level, where we have to clear out all the enemies there, which once again has a bit of RNG to it, because they can hide or they can just actually kill themselves as well, which obviously wouldn't be too bad, because it would save us some time.
Now the most exciting part is climbing up ladders and rope.
Yeah, this is... I like how it says you should press A in rhythm with the movements, but you can just mash A and it's the same.
Yeah. You just get wrist problems faster.
So yeah, as I said, just have to kill all of these guys, and there will be some dropping into the staking site from above, and if we're lucky we will actually get to, or unlucky, yeah, we actually get to see enemies like these that do some airwalking by themselves. So I guess it's...
It's developer intended. This is actually a glitchless one.
And now it's just one more enemy that will spawn on top of this, and we're off to the obvious best section of this, or segment of this run.
It's actually always been kind of a dream of mine that, like, eventually a Crystal Dynamics employee would watch it and be like, oh yeah, no, we actually programmed airwalking in on purpose. We just didn't think that normal people would find it, so we didn't take it out. And all of a sudden we're just doing glitchless runs.
So yeah, this is for obvious reasons the best segment of this run. Right now I just have to talk to the bartender and then go into the next loading trigger. And once the fighting starts, I want to clear out the room here as fast as possible, because there will be 3 enemies in this room and 2 enemies running in from the opposite hallway. If I kill all the enemies and I myself am in that opposite hallway, I can skip the next enemy spawn. So that's what I'm aiming for, but who knows if it works out. Let's see.
Lara's hair makes me very angry in this segment. This gross big blob.
Oh wow, that guy didn't die. Oh well, that kind of worked. If I hadn't killed that guy while I was in that hallway, the next group would have spawned and that would have been 2 more enemies I'd have to kill. Yeah, now we're just kind of trying to reach the end of this level, I guess. And yeah, you might see on top of this, or once we get out of this elevator, behind that window there is a motorbike waiting for us. But since you saw the motorbike segment earlier, you might understand if I don't want to use that and just airwalk across this gap by myself.
Just like in real life.
Yeah. This is how Japanese people travel from one building to the next.
Yeah, let's not get racist here, Cadarev. Also, Lara's not Japanese.
Though. Yeah.
Lara's not Japanese, she's just in Japan. She's Gaijin.
In the next room, I have to shoot down a panel from the wall to access the next part of the level.
You'll see them when I do.
And this can be somewhat annoying because the enemies in this room can interrupt you quite often if they feel like it. First I have to shoot these 2 rigs up there, and now I can pull down the... Yeah, there we go, that's the first interruption. Now yeah, that's the second one. Dude, this is going really well. It's not.
Scream like that one time.
And now I can just backwards handspring into that door to hit the loading trigger, and I don't have to open the door, which would be a bit slower. And we're off to this really cool climbing sections, because climbing sections are fun. So this is one example of what we meant with airwalk doesn't equal no clip or whatever, because since this is almost a purely vertical section, and as we said there's no real way to change height by yourself, we still have to do this.
Well, you say that now, but once we're in anniversary, it's
Shush.
gonna be... You'll see, just stick around, fellas.
Don't bother me, Alistair.
I can get an airwalk off this side of the panel to do a bit of a shortcut here, but now we actually already reached the top, so that's about it for the glitchless segment. Which obviously is glitchless because I used an airwalk. And in the next room there, here, I want to actually shoot down that chandelier in the middle of the room. Not because I really want to kill the enemies, even though they die from it. On one hand, this guy drops a grenade and I want some grenades for the final boss here. But also this guy opens this door for me, so I don't have to open it by myself. And as I said earlier, opening doors is a bit slower than just, not opening them. Here I quit out and reload after this checkpoint, because this makes the spawns in this room really consistent. And if I'm lucky, I kill all of them with one grenade, exactly like that. And now I pick up a shotgun, because shotgun is way better than assault rifle, as you'll see. And we're now just about to fight the boss in this level, which is a bit of a weird one, because if he feels like it, he can just get stuck in midair. And even though he can't like shoot back at you, that and makes the fight really trivial, it's actually slower, because we want to use our hand grenades because they do more damage, and if he's in midair, the explosion from the hand grenades won't reach him. We'll see if it turns out like this. And of course he's stuck in midair, so no hand grenade action right now. Enjoy this really cool boss fight.
It's brutal, just shotgunning people right in their face.
I also like how his lines repeat like without any gaps. If you fight him quote unquote normally, he at least has some gaps in between what he says, but if he's stuck in mid-air, he just spouts nonsense all the time. So after Japan, we're now off to Ghana, which actually I think has pretty nice scenery. But the thing is, we have an airwalk, so you know.
Yeah, unfortunately, you don't get to really admire all the work that the developers put into it, because you just fall through the waterfall, and then you're in a pitch black room for a while.
Wow, spoilers.
Well, it's like I'm on a lag. Okay, I'm just trying to sort of figure out roughly where you are in the run.
So obviously I dropped right down where this platform is. I know where it is, so I know where to drop my airwalk, so that's good. And this is the room Fino mentioned. So normally this room would not be as pitch black as it is right now. But since we're kind of sequence breaking this level and aren't supposed to go there yet, yeah, there are no textures or anything in this room. And yeah, that's basically it for this level, because we're already approaching the boss of this level, which is even better than the previous one we just fought. Just have to get one more airwalk here to make it up to this bridge. And so this next boss, you will get to see how much better hand grenades are than even the shotgun.
Yeah,
I
they're
hope.
pretty overpowered.
I mean, yes, we're not playing on the highest difficulty, but still.
Does the difficulty change much of how this game is played?
It adjusts the damage you do to the enemy, or basically they have more health, so we can't do all the quick kills on the bosses, but that's about it.
I do recall in the Kazakh motorbike sections, the shotgun guys could basically take down most of your health in like one shot on
So
hard.
that was the boss, by the way.
There you go.
And
Yeah.
talking about the Kazakhstan bike segment. Nice. But yeah, before we get to that fun, we first have to load that end of the level. So we want to get down to that building you've seen down there, and since we can airwork, we want to go over there. But as you might see, we're up quite high, and there is fall damage in this game. So yeah, we have to get a bit creative there, and getting creative means we just cancel all the fall damage, which I hopefully will be able to do. Okay, I did, good. And yeah, touching that window there gets the checkpoint, which loads the train behind that gate you're seeing down there at the dam. And that's where we want to go now, because we totally want to do another bike segment. But before we get there, we have to kill any two enemies that are around here. Sometimes they actually make this job a lot easier for you by like running into a stray grenade and whatnot and killing themselves, but now we just had to kill the first two guys we saw. And yeah, guess it's time for this again. Except worse.
Part.
Yes. So Kazakhstan bike segment is not only about twice as long as the Peru one, or the Peruvian one. In the second half of the bike segment, there are new types of enemies to make things a lot more interesting. Isn't that right? But yeah, we'll get there. This first part is just some more guys in motorbikes that shoot at us and we shoot back at them. And same rules apply as before. Basically, you always want to be as close to them as possible when you're shooting. And don't get sent into a tree, because if you run into a tree straight ahead while being at somewhat reasonable speed, you will die instantly. And there are actually no checkpoints between the start of this level and the intermission part. So if I die before getting there, I will be sent all the way back, which is obviously not that much of fun.
Yeah, not very ideal.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how, like, I can recall playing this game as a child and thinking about how much I loved, like, the quad bike section in Tomb Raider 3 and the motorbike section in Legend, and now those are, like, the worst parts of the game.
I don't know why you would think that. These are amazing. Look at this. It's so much fun.
You should be playing with next-gen content on so you can see straight through the world.
If I was playing with next-gen content on, I would actually not have made it into this segment, because the game would likely crash in the Kazakhstan segment before the Spike segment.
Sounds like it's doing you a favor.
Exactly. So this is
a new category.
Exactly. Next-gen only. So this is the intermission part. After this, in the second half of the bike segment, as I said, there will be a new type of enemies, which basically are these jeeps with guys that shoot out of the ceiling, or whatever you want to call it, the roof. There we go. I think you call it that way. The thing about those guys is the guy who's shooting out of the car is always on the right side. So if you approach them from the left, due to the angle that Laura's shooting at, you basically will never hit them. And you, as always, want to be as close to them as possible. But either they always accelerate before you get really close, or you actually overtake them, and as I said, you don't really want to do that either, because then they'll just crash into you from behind, and that's not really good either. But we'll get there. This is actually the part where the enemies can also be really helpful, because on my, like, record attempts, I always basically have to hope for them to run into one of the explosive barrels by themselves, so that actually happened 2 times, where the last group of enemies, which will be 3 cars at the same time, they just ran into one of the, or drove into one of the explosive barrels and knocked all of them out at the same time, which was pretty great. But yeah, this probably won't happen here. What happened here?
Your record attempts, huh?
Yeah, sorry.
Literally Cadarev's record.
No, my attempts, not my record. Anyways, yeah. So that was an interesting kill on that guy. As you saw, I just kind of like rammed into his bike there and he died instantly. That can happen, I guess. So here, as I said, I want to overtake him on the right, so I can actually hit this guy, but here he just accelerated out of nowhere, and you can already see these guys can take quite a lot of bullets if you're not like getting the ideal positioning. And you might also be able to see that they can clip through these rocks in the middle of the street, which is also great.
Sometimes they explode though.
Yeah. So... Oh wow! Yeah, I'll just let that speak for itself.
It'd be nice if you could use your grenade during this segment. Just lob one at the Jeep.
Yeah.
There it goes.
And bye. Because it's great, they actually give you 4 grenades that they show you in the upper left corner, but you can't use grenade in this segment. So.
I like how that Jeep also ragdolled like crazy when it exploded. Flying up.
Can this guy please not? Thank you. So yeah.
Getting anxiety watching this bike section. You're gonna slam into rocks and stuff.
Yeah, that was the last enemy. Now we just do one more of these like intermission segments, and then we have to do 3 jumps in the end that are actually a bit more difficult than they might look. Because you might not have noticed, but the camera on this bike is absolutely atrocious, because the sensitivity is, for whatever reason, scaled down tremendously. So I'm doing full swipes of my mouse right now, and this is the max amount of camera angle I can get. So I want to already adjust the camera there before I do the jump, because the camera doesn't really stick behind Laura there. As you can see, now I'm getting a side view for whatever reason. Can this game please stop giving me the side view? Thank you. Jesus Christ.
turning is also pretty much completely digital on the bike. Like it doesn't have a smooth kind of like basically if you hit the left key, you're just turning left like at its max speed.
So yeah, that brings us to the first QTE of this run. There would have been some more earlier, but we luckily were able to skip them all. An interesting thing about the QTEs in this game is, on one hand, the inputs are always the same. That's also the case for Anniversary, but in this game you can actually mash the keys before they appear. So you basically always get the best reaction time. You can't do that in Anniversary. There you have to actually time your inputs. If you mash the correct input there, you actually get a fail.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame that you can't just mash it in Anniversary because they'll say that you failed the input for whatever reason.
On the other hand, that requires a lot more skill for Anniversary, so yeah, I'm not serious.
Whatever.
So now we're just trying to reach the end of the secret lab here. There is actually no out-of-bound tricks we've found yet for this segment, so it's basically just normal airwalking over gaps and whatnot.
Once I start playing, I'll find you one, don't worry.
Oh yeah, please. Actually, I don't want you to play this. Don't want to do this to you.
That's true. Save me the misery.
Yeah. Also, the cables on these slopes you can just like kind of slide through. Yeah, doesn't really matter. The ones that are not on the slopes, you can't do that because they knock you back. And yeah, so the next room I will clear by backwards handspringing into the door to hit the checkpoint behind it, and there's actually a chance this game might crash when I do that, so I hope this didn't happen here. There's one more spot where the exact same thing can happen in just a while. But yeah, now
if it crashes, just reset.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, check out that big gun thing.
That we won't use until the boss fight.
So this is the second spot where the game can crash, and it didn't. Good. I totally swear the game can crash. Seriously, I'm not doing this for extra drama. I lost some height there. I don't want to do that. I hope I can still clear it now. Good. Okay, we're Gucci. And now we're just off to the boss of this segment, which is actually even more difficult than the two we've seen so far, because this one we don't even have to battle. Actually, if you damage this boss, it doesn't do a thing because he heals just back up. So you're actually supposed to not attack it and just pull these 4 levers and then hit the targets with the gun, and that's about it.
Did you say we're Gucci earlier?
No.
I thought you did, and I was about to leave.
So that's the 4th lever, and now we just jump into the gun seat and fire away. I assume this counts as shots fired.
I mean, you've shot plenty of bullets in this one so far. Enough to make up for the lack of them in the Anniversary.
Exactly. So the thing about the trilogy is actually the further it progresses, the less shots there will be fired. Which I guess is a good and a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. So now you just grapple that thing up on the top there, and that's the boss. And we're off to England, which is a pretty interesting level, because there's actually stuff happening here, I guess. So here I want to reach a somewhat ideal height, where I'm able to just squeeze through this next archway, but I'm still high enough to airwalk over this door, because only the top of it doesn't have collision, and it's somewhat precise. And then we can just go out of bounds on this part.
It seems like, I mean, what I suppose you could term quote-unquote recent innovations, it seems like mostly England has seen the most improvement.
Yeah, definitely. Also, as you just saw there, forklifts are super strong, and just hide in one when you want to not get damaged by a hand grenade and you'll be fine. And I failed to break him. thingy, the wall at the first attempt, so let's do that again. By the way, this forklift has the exact same camera settings as the motorbikes, so yes, the camera is that slow. I can't really do anything about it.
So we haven't really gone over it. Pretty soon, Cadarev is going to be doing something called a fall damage cancel. You can do it out of airwalk or just like standing on the ground.
Actually, wait. I first have to do the most difficult QTE. Thanks, you can continue.
Okay. Just be quiet.
No, you can go ahead now.
No.
It's
I
over.
refuse.
So yeah, this was the
need
fall
to-
damage cancel Fino mentioned.
Yeah, I assume it works the same as
It does,
Anniversary.
yeah.
Although, are you using the weapon switch variant?
Yes.
Or is it... Okay, so yeah, essentially, well, you can't switch weapons with the mouse wheel in this game, correct?
Correct.
So, when it comes to the weapon switch variant, you basically have to jump off of the ledge with your weapons held out, and then just before you hit the ground, you need to switch weapons and grapple. And the problem with that is that without having weapon switch on the mouse wheel, obviously you're sending out less input, so you need to be more precise with your timing. In Anniversary, we're mostly going to be using a different method because weapon switch is kind of
Awful.
not easy. So in that case, like, weapon switch doesn't really matter in general, but so does the other variant not work in this?
It kind of does. The problem with Legend is there is no button that lets you basically reload your weapons at will if you have two weapons. If you only have one weapon, the use key does reload your weapon, but if you have two weapons, it doesn't. So to use the reload fall damage cancel variant, you actually kind of have to empty your magazine first.
Great.
Also, I dropped my airlock for no reason, but that's fine.
Not a problem if you're French, because you just shoot the entire time you're walking anyways.
Nice. that took
Had
a
to
while.
get in a little jab there.
So now we just have to once again escape. Also, rolling into enemies can make them go flying off like that. It also counts for the doggies, as you can see. And yeah, then we just have to kill the two guys in the final room, and we're off to the second last level of this game, which is Nepal, and it will be a very short one as well.
Short but fun.
Of course, the entire game is fun.
Well.
Was that a wow or a well?
Well.
Yeah, I agree. So for a change of pace, we actually do an airwalk here.
Nice.
Yeah, so luckily this part of the mountain has just the right slope where we can abuse it to get to the top of it. Which actually kind of sucks, because before we used this strat, there was a very, I think, interesting strat where we would do a puzzle that you will see later on, but with all the textures deloaded. So we basically had to do it blindly. And it was actually kind of fun, I think, but since we can just go on top, we do it this way. So we had to like do the puzzle with this airplane wreck down there.
Something like that.
But now, since we're all this way up, we can just go to the end here. Do another fall damage cancel.
That's how speedrunning goes, though. You replace fun with fast.
Yeah. So
Whether you
that
make it
fall
separate
damage
category.
cancel there was a bit more tricky, because shortly before you like crash into the ground, you also go through a bit of texture, and you actually don't see exactly when Lara would land. So you kind of have to know the timing there. Then we gain a bit of height here, so we can go out of bounds on this side, and then load the area from out of bounds, and keep the arrow going. And do the same on this side, hopefully. There is a chance that I might pop back in bounds, but I didn't, that's good. And then we get to skip your favorite puzzle at the end of Nepal.
I totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the thing you said you're pretty happy about that we're skipping now. You'll see, never mind.
I'll know it when I see it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, everyone in the stream will be way past it, and I'll be like, oh, that part!
So we get an airwalk, we would get an airwalk if we weren't bad. We're getting an airwalk here to actually go out of bounds from underneath this part this time. So
Oh yeah, this skip!
great. And now we have to load this room, which we do by backwards handspringing to this door, which was closed, and now it's open, and now it closes again, so that's cool.
One thing at a time.
And here we get Excalibur, which we will use in the final boss fight. That will
Now I
happen in
suppose
like
it's time to
20
work out how to
seconds.
leave this monastery.
Nice, dude.
Just for fun. It's a priceless artifact. I'm just saying, Laura.
This is Dark Souls brain. Doesn't it look like it?
Yeah.
Honestly, the graphics aren't that far off.
Wow.
Hey, it's my favorite game. I can insult it.
What, Legend?
No.
You can
Don't
insult it
slander
too.
me.
So yeah, this is the final boss fight. It's actually separated into 2 phases. This first one, we just have to clear out all enemies. As I said, we have Excalibur now, which is this sword that can also shoot some projectiles, and all of these projectiles one-hit these enemies, so this is a totally fun and not RNG-heavy segment, because sometimes they feel like evading all your shots, or that guy shoots some grenade at you, and whenever you get knocked back by a grenade, you're like, waste 5 seconds or something.
The boss
And-
is also completely RNG free.
Yeah, this is the actual final boss. So he also has some evasive maneuvers like that, which he actually can chain and pretty much make it impossible to hit him. But I hit him there a few times, and basic gist of this is you always want to get 50% of his life bar, and then he'll heal back a bit of it, and then you'll slice off the next 50% and so on until you win. You can pseudo stun lock him if you hit him as soon as he exits his stun animation, but it's not a true stun lock, so basically just hope he doesn't do one of his evasive maneuvers, and usually he does them, so you just pretend that you actually know what to do, and you're totally not mashing Excalibur here.
Yeah, for those who are trying to follow the lore of this game, you're currently fighting him with Excalibur, King Arthur's sword. If you weren't aware, then yeah, the ancient legend does state that he has a sword that can
Actually, wait,
shoot out sci-fi beams.
Time is coming up soon, which is in now.
World record?
Yeah, sure. I don't know, I don't see the time, but I can guarantee it is not world record.
Me neither. Well, we also normally have like load removers and stuff, which, you know, so you'd have to retime it anyways.
Yeah, I don't think we get to see this amazing cutscene here, so I'll just quit out, and I think we'll do a very quick intermission while I switch games, and the next one will be Anniversary, which is basically this game but in good. So see you there.
Yeah.